Welcome to Watches Rated, where we methodically review the most exciting watches on a 100-point scale so that you can make the best informed decisions when purchasing your next watch. Our review process for each watch considers 4 primary criteria: design, construction, movement, and other factors to consider. Each category is further broken down into 5 subcategories, which allows us to precisely quantify what makes a great, good, or exceptional watch. Today, I am reviewing a watch that should be a staple in any watch collection, and that is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300-meter Professional. I would go so far as to say if you can only buy one luxury watch, this might be it. Hailed as one of the quintessential timepieces of the 20th and 21st century, it's easy to see why even James Bond wears this watch. Omega has perfected the dive watch and done it in a way that is still incredibly elegant, unique, and practical. Many commentators and collectors laud the Seamaster's incredible specs and timeless design, a combination that is difficult to execute in today's world of homages and increasingly complex watch designs. Omega's first Seamaster hit stores in 1948 as a dress watch variant, but was quickly updated in 1957 to a more dive-oriented Seamaster Diver Professional 200 meters, with water resistance up to 200 meters, that the current generation draws inspiration from. The modern version of the Seamaster Professional Diver was developed in the early 90s, included many of the design cues used in the current version: a helium escape valve, tumor at the top, a scallop-edged unidirectional bezel, skeletonized hands for legibility, an engraved wave pattern dial, and a 5-link bracelet. First worn by Pierce Brosnan in Goldeneye, the Seamaster Professional Diver became synonymous with both luxury and practicality, a feat that not many other watches have achieved. A lot of watches fit specific niches, right? Dress watches have clean dials and simple designs, while tool watches have more rugged designs and easily readable dials. Some watches get even more specific, like the Rolex Yachtmaster 2's Regatta timing function, or Breitling's Navitimer, which is really just a fancy analog calculator on your wrist. The Omega Seamaster Diver is one of the few watches, other than maybe the classic Rolex Submariner, that can easily transition from a diving session to a formal occasion. I can say this confidently because I've actually worn this watch the entire day on the beach and then put on a suit for an evening wedding ceremony, and I didn't take the watch off once, and yes, that even includes in the shower. But what makes the Omega Seamaster Diver Professional one of the best watches on the market? Is it the sweet spot of less than $6,000 price tag, often with further discounts? Or is it the 300 meters of water resistance that lets you comfortably use this watch in any aquatic adventure you might find yourself in? Perhaps it is the flawless ceramic bezel and reflective wave pattern dial that catches the light at all angles? Or does the in-house MEDUS certified coaxial caliber 8800 movement that is highly anti-magnetic pique your interest? For me, the combination of the watch's timeless design, serious tool watch specifications, and impressive materials such as the polished ceramic elements and highly decorated in-house movement are united to form a watch that demands to be worn more often in your rotation than any other watch. Now, to get the scoring aspect out of the way, after carefully considering all aspects of this watch, I gave the Omega Seamaster Diver an overall score of 89.5 points out of 100 points. Breaking that down further, I scored the design of the watch 23 points, 21.5 points for its construction, 23 points for the movement, and lastly 22 points for various additional factors. For less than $6,000, you are getting a well-rounded watch that you can wear on the beach or with a business suit. The Omega Seamaster Diver is worn by divers, recreational swimmers, business professionals, and James Bond for a reason. It is the ultimate all-around watch with serious specs for the price. And if you don't already have one of these in collection, what exactly are you waiting for? Starting with the design of the watch here, I'm just going to pick it up real quick. The latest generation of the Omega Seamaster Diver increases the case from 41 millimeters from the previous version to 42 millimeters. As a person with larger wrists, 40 to 42 really is my sweet spot, and even with the incremental increase in size, the watch doesn't feel unruly. The case's construction of stainless steel and mostly brushed surfaces, as this is a dive watch at the end of the day, and it's a professional tool watch. One nice feature though is the polished elements such as these lyre lugs here that really play with the sunlight and light really well, as you can see. There are some really nice polished edges here as well. So I think, even though this is a tool watch, it has some really great shine to it. And speaking of shine, the ceramic on this, there's a lot of the extremely tough ceramic material on this watch. The unidirectional bezel is a single piece of black ceramic inlaid with white ceramic and nicely loomed numerals. The wave pattern dial, which is slightly updated version compared to the wavier and less reflective prior version, is also made of this extremely durable material. Omega spent years perfecting ceramic manufacturing, which is no easy feat, and the result is stunning. The dial reflects perfectly, and the laser engraved wave pattern shifts from subtle ridges to these really like deep canyons that you can see here, depending on the angle that you hold the watch at. In terms of the dial itself, one of my favorite aspects of this watch is the dial. It's clean and very easy to read even in low light conditions, so you can see here. And it's nice because this is an obvious requirement for any serious dive watch, right? And I also think that the design itself is a mesmerizing mash of design elements that work surprisingly well together, right? You have these polished button light indices that are really the first thing to catch your eye and are filled to the absolute brim with superluminova lume. The skeletonized hands are probably the least changed element of the Seamaster Diver and are expertly polished to reflect light against the deep black background of the dial. The red-tipped lollipop seconds hand is also a classic design element that fits well within the overall design language, and the date window, located at 6 o'clock, fits well within the overall design language, and I think it's really unobtrusive and blends into the dial seamlessly, although I know some people really find date windows to be pretty polarizing at this point. The wave pattern etched into the dial itself has become the Seamaster Diver's calling card since its refresh in the 1990s. Back then, it was more of a subtly engraved pattern that appeared like choppy water in a harbor. This latest version revamps the dial design to create an elongated wave pattern that are much more abstract and flow from one side of the watch all the way to the over in an unbroken pattern. The upgraded design's etching is also much deeper and more pronounced, so at different angles of light, the dial can manifest anywhere between a smooth, glassy surface, like that, to a flat plane punctuated by deep channels that seem to cut right through the entire dial, as you can see here. In terms of the strap and bracelet design, I opted to order this watch with a stainless steel bracelet, as I actually appreciate how little the band's design has changed since the 1990s, as you can see here. But I also purchased the matching black rubber band, which is really, really comfortable. Both bands are incredibly comfortable and are well integrated with the case design. As you can see, it's a fully integrated band here. And surprisingly, both bands pair well with a more formal outfit, even the black rubber band. The 5-link stainless steel bracelet hasn't changed much since the first modern iteration because of its timeless design. Most of the bracelet surfaces are heavily brushed to resist scratching. As you can see, even the sides are brushed. And I think that's a really nice design. And then while most of the surface is brushed, right, you do have these polished middle bands here that add a little touch of class to the overall band. The clasp itself is secured by a dual button, flip this over, by a dual button release, as you can see here. And this clasp actually is really well designed because it expertly hides one of the best features of the Seamaster Diver, which is the micro adjustment slide, which allows the user to add up to a ½ inch of additional room. So you can see here, if I take it off this, there's this push button under here that allows you to push in and out the band, giving you a lot of extra room. As you can see, it gains almost an entire length there of space, which is really nice. And of course, a true dive watch would not come complete without a diver's extension, which allows the user to seamlessly wear the Seamaster over a wetsuit. And that is also seamlessly integrated into the micro adjustment clasp, which I think is great. So as you can see here, you have the micro adjustment slider, and then you just pop it out, and that's the extension. So you get an extra about inch and a half of room that you can wear over a 8 or 5 millimeter wetsuit, and you would have plenty of room and give there. And it just snaps right back in place. So you're able to do the micro adjustments at the same time as the dive extension, which I think is a really smart design. Somebody really had to put some thought into that, so I really appreciate that. Putting this back on here for just a second. In terms of the bezel itself, right, I think we've touched on it a little bit, but to get a little bit further into it, Seamaster Diver's unidirectional bezel is the clearest indication that this watch is truly a dive watch. The scalloped edges take a bit of getting used to. It is a little bit hard to grip, but once you figure out that you just grip at the 10 and the 2 o'clock, it does move pretty easily. And as you can hear, has a very, very nice action. The scalloped edges take a bit of getting used to, and the mechanism is definitely more stiff than other, dive watches such as models by Seiko, Rolex, or Tudor. However, I do like it because once the bezel is set, you don't have to worry about knocking the bezel in either direction. Some more modern Tudors feel like they have a pretty loose setting on them, so it is nice that you don't have to worry about knocking the bezel in either direction, which is really just great insurance if you're wearing this deep underwater. You don't want to knock it and reduce your time underwater. The ceramic insert is incredibly scratch resistant and is highly polished to exhibit the deep black ceramic coloring. The graduated scale, which you can see in white, in which technically counts back your available air in a scuba tank based on the beginning time of the dive, is inlaid with starkly contrasted white superluminova, which stays bright for hours after it's been fully charged by UV light, which I'll show you in a little bit. In terms of originality, since the modern version of the Seamaster Diver Professional was released in the early 1990s, Omega has made small iterative tweaks to the design to arrive at the current version. For example, the helium escape valve used to be a simple cylindrical crown, similar to the primary crown located at 3 o'clock, whereas the latest version has a more nuanced conical crown that distinguishes the helium escape valve's function. As you can see here, it tapers a little bit. The newly designed helium escape valve also serves a practical purpose, as the conical design is less likely to dig into the wearer's wrist, a small but important design change. Perhaps the most obvious change since the last iteration is the dial, which has transitioned from a more subtle, wavy surface to deeply cut indentations as previously discussed. The dial's materials have also adapted to include more robust and more difficult to work with ceramic, demonstrating Omega's ability to make well-executed incremental changes. Given the watch's storied history on the wrist of James Bond and countless divers and collectors, it makes sense that Omega has chosen to make incremental improvements to the design rather than a design overhaul. And I think the end product is a watch that can't be mistaken for its predecessors, but shares more than enough DNA. In terms of the construction, I gave this watch 21.5 points out of 25 points because it is really impressive. The Omega Seamaster Diver is undeniably solid and well built. With its stainless steel construction and screw-down crown that seals extremely tightly, the watch is water resistant up to 300 meters or almost 1,000 feet, which no one's going to be diving deeper than that, trust me. Almost the entire case and bracelet has a brushed finishing, which is resistant to scratches and bumps, although the clasp seems particularly susceptible to scratches. As you can see on my version, it does get pretty scratched up, but the rest of the bracelet itself seems to be fairly well held up after 3 years of almost constantly wearing this. I only have one good scratch over there, which is pretty good. And even though the Seamaster comes from a professional heritage of dive watches, the level of decoration of the movement and just the polishing itself, I think displays Omega's renowned abilities just to produce a really high quality watch that is both practical yet can definitely hold its own in elegant settings. The entire watch, including the bracelet, is constructed from 316L stainless steel, which is known for its corrosion resistance and hardness suitable for daily use. While not the most technically advanced material compared to other manufacturers using 904L steel or other materials such as titanium, the 316L stainless steel case retains its brush surface as well and does not scratch easily, even across the brush grain, which I think is great. The most impressive aspect of the watch from a materials perspective is clearly the ceramic bezel and dial, which are nearly scratch-proof and will retain the deep black color permanently and will not fade even after exposure to direct sunlight like some older Rolex models. Ceramic of this quality is difficult to produce, and only a handful of the top manufacturers use this material, the most famous being Rolex with their Submariner models. When viewed under a macro lens, the crisp transitions between the black ceramic and the white luminous numerals on the bezel is extremely impressive, as are the deep indentations cut into the dial itself. In terms of resistances, the watch has a couple different things I'd like to talk about. First, with the screw-down crown and solid stainless steel construction, the Omega Seamaster Diver boasts 300 meters of water resistance, which is over 3 times as much resistance as most other watches. Being on the inside is the Omega 8800 coaxial movement, which also contributes to the watch's impressive specifications. First, the Omega caliber 8800 is resistant to magnetic fields up to 1500 Gauss, which is much higher than would be typically experienced in everyday life unless you're like an MRI technician. Gauss is essentially magnetic fields. Second, the coaxial design of the caliber 8800 is structurally superior to typical movements, as the movement's bridge isolates the escapement from shocks, and the coaxial technology reduces friction at the escapement, while simultaneously requiring less lubrication, and allows the watch to accurately tell time between longer service intervals than other watches. In terms of the ancillaries on this watch, the Omega Seamaster Diver is perhaps most recognizable due to its signature helium escape valve located at the 10 o'clock, which some people call a tumor on the top of the watch. This is a rare feature amongst dive watches in particular. The helium escape valve is designed to relieve helium gas that expands in the watch case during deep dives, and thereby preventing damage to the watch's movement. As you can see here, when you turn it this way, it pops open and it shows a red seal there, so it's telling you that it is open, which is a nice little feature. But just doing that, which you can do up to 50 meters in water, allows the helium to escape from the watch if you've been down diving pretty deep for a long time. So it's not really a practical thing that you're going to be using all that often or if ever, but it's just really cool additional piece of technology that they've kept consistent with the watch and consistent with its design DNA originally as a tool watch. In addition to the helium escape valve, the Seamaster Diver includes polished twisted lyre lugs, which are these lugs right here that kind of twist down on this polished side, and semi-polished crown guards that protect the screw down crown. So you have brushed surfaces here, and then they transition over to this really, really nice polished area, which protects the crown right here. The crown itself and the helium escape valve include deep ridges that provide sufficient grip. As you can see, I was able to grip this helium escape valve pretty easily. And the crowns solidly lock into place with rubber gasket systems once fully closed. In terms of the bracelet and the clasp, the integrated stainless steel bracelet is nearly perfect, but does not come without its detractors. The steel bracelet has hardly changed over the past iterations from the 90s and early 2000s, and consequently some collectors have remarked that the bracelet is stale compared to more robust and refined options, such as from Rolex or Breitling. Many of these collectors also lament that the bracelet does not taper significantly from the lugs to the clasp. There's actually no tapering here at all. But it doesn't bother me too much. I think it's appropriate for what it is. And I particularly enjoy the simple yet elegant design of the bracelet, including the 5-link design with minimalist polished surfaces. The real star of the show when it comes to the bracelet is the clasp, as I discussed earlier, which includes a quick micro adjustment slide that expands the bracelet in small millimeter increments for additional comfort, as well as the diver extension as well. What I particularly like about Omega's design is the way that they seamlessly integrated both of those extensions to the same clasp and ratchet system that is hidden under the hollow body of the clasp. I just think that they really designed that well, and they left it so that you didn't have to worry about one clasp coming undone or a really, really thick clasp. I think they fit a lot of adjustment ability into what a 7mm tall clasp. That's pretty impressive. Speaking of impressive things, let's turn to the movement, which I gave 23 out of 25 points. It's no secret that Omega produces some of the most technologically advanced movements and well-built movements in the industry, especially at the price point that they are at. Omega's renowned coaxial movement family is proven to keep accurate time, require less maintenance than other brands, and resist shocks and magnetism. In the range of $5,000 to $10,000, most watches either use a top-end Solido or ETA-based movement, or some entry-level in-house movements such as Tudor's MT calibers. However, Omega takes their movement development and reputation very seriously, as you can see here from the level of decoration on this movement. And the coaxial movements pack a lot of bang for the buck and are based on Omega's own research and manufacturing that makes this feat all the more impressive. Just looking at the movement through the transparent caseback gives a clear indication that the Seamaster Diver has something special inside. The dual-sided bridge, which you can see at the top here, black hairspring and gears, and ball-bearing rotor wheel and concentric Côte de Genève all come together to create a unique movement that other manufacturers can't even dream to produce at such a competitive price. You can see here the light just plays really, really well with the decorations here. It's just really impressive, and I really actually like the black balance wheel. It just contrasts nicely and adds like a pop of not color, but contrast to the whole thing. In terms of complications, while the architecture and features of the caliber 8800 are impressive, The Seamaster Diver is really a no-frills tool watch when it comes to complications. I actually appreciate the simplicity of the time-only design, which only has the date window at 6 o'clock as well. There is a more complex version of the model of the Seamaster Diver that comes with a bicompax chronograph design if you're ever interested. However, I prefer the time-only version as it feels more appropriate for a dive tool watch, and it feels like it is more connected to the original version from the 90s. In terms of accuracy, each Omega Seamaster Diver is certified as a master chronometer, which is really great. You can see it on the dial there, it says master chronometer. Which means that the movement has been dual certified by both METAS and COSC. These certifications represent each Seamaster Diver is accurate to between 0 and +5 seconds a day. The last time I tested my personal Seamaster here, it was +3 seconds per day, which is fantastic for a $6,000 watch that I wear almost daily and is subject to bumps, magnetic fields, and other hazards, including the random city bike rides every once in a while. Double certification under COSC and METAS require the movement and the entire watch itself actually to go through a series of 8 tests, which range from magnetic tests to water resistance. In addition, the watches are tested in 6 positions, which is one more than the typical 5-position tests under COSC, to ensure accurate time is kept no matter how the watch is oriented. Overall, with both certifications and the master chronometer label on the face of the dial, it is evident that the Seamaster Diver is truly a capable and supremely accurate timepiece. In terms of power reserve, Omega's caliber 8800 coaxial movement is a seriously impressive watch movement. With automatic bidirectional winding, 35 joules, and beating at a frequency of 25,200 revolutions per hour, which is an unusual speed compared to other manufacturers, the caliber 8800 also boasts a single mainspring barrel with 55 hours of power reserve, which far exceeds the industry standard of 42 hours. I think for the price point this is acceptable, but given Omega's experience and expertise in movement and manufacturing, I would have hoped for at least 68 to 72 hours of power reserve to make the watch competitive with other offerings such as Tudor. The finishing design of the movement is clearly the winner here. Omega's attention to detail and excellent finishing techniques are on full display on the movement as seen through the transparent case back. The concentric Côte de Genève decoration is probably the most eye-catching part of the watch movement, and is one of Omega's signature perks. In addition, certain elements of the movement, including some gears and even the balance wheel and hairspring assembly, are colored in a deep black, and the balance wheel itself is made out of a silicone hybrid material, and stand out against the highly polished stainless steel main plate and other parts. The rotor is decorated with red lettering, indicating the movement's designation, number as you can see here. And many of the edges of the main plate and bridge are chamfered and polished as well. So again, for under $6,000, this is pretty impressive work for sure. In terms of other factors I considered, I gave the watch 22 out of 25 points, mostly because I just think it's really impressive what you get as the overall package and not just the watch itself. When we're talking about the price here, the Omega Seamaster Diver retails for $5,900 currently on the stainless steel bracelet, and $5,600 on the rubber strap, and there are often discounts to be had given that this model has been out for a few years, especially overseas. For example, I purchased my version while on vacation in the Caribbean, and between discounts and no VAT tax, I think my price came down to the mid-$4,000s. However, if you want both straps, it is probably best to purchase the watch on the stainless steel bracelet and then purchase the rubber strap separately or used, as the stainless steel bracelet retails for about $600 separately, and the rubber strap is usually available for around $350. On the used market, the Seamaster Diver retains most of its value, which is pretty impressive for any watch other than a Rolex or a Cartier. But there are definitely some discounts to be had on some good condition watches between the $4,500 to $4,800 mark. From a value proposition, it's hard to find a more well-priced diver watch with the same specs. Omega packs a ton of value into the Seamaster Diver, from the ceramic bezel and dial to the caliber 8800 coaxial movement inside. It is an impressive overall package for less than $6,000 that comes from one of the most widely recognized and respected watch brands in the entire industry. It's no wonder that Omega is one of the top 3 watch brands sold by volume and sales, and it regularly trades places for second place with Cartier, with obviously Rolex in the first place, undisputed. Omega's reputation as a top watch brand has not developed in a vacuum. Omega currently sits within the top 3 spots of the watch industry next to Rolex and Cartier for a reason. The attention to detail and quality control on the Seamaster Diver is readily apparent. There's no dust or fine particles on the dial, and the indices hands movements are flawlessly polished. The watch arrived running well within its tolerance between 0 and 5 seconds a day, and almost 5 years later, it's still running within that range, which I think is really impressive. As discussed earlier, each Seamaster Diver is certified as a master chronometer, which means that the movement has been dual certified by both COSC and METAS. Most top-end watches are just COSC certified, with a few limited watches such as Rolex and Tudor receiving higher certifications from METAS or other independent testing laboratories. The METAS test is particularly impressive for any watch to pass, as it evaluates each fully assembled watch, unlike the COSC test, which just tests the movements. And it's just really impressive that, they go through the whole process of getting this watch dual certified. At less than $6,000, the Seamaster Diver is a fantastic value proposition from a certification perspective, as Omega's obsession with its movement manufacturing is evident in its quest to make each movement more accurate, robust, and reliable. It is no wonder that Omega's movements, including the caliber 8800 inside this watch, enjoy longer service intervals than many peers, as each Omega is designed and built to be resilient and efficient. In terms of the warranty, each Omega Seamaster Diver comes with a standard 5-year warranty, which is more or less the industry standard at this point. Given the watch's robust in-house movement and solid case design, the warranty feels appropriate. However, I would have hoped for a slightly longer warranty period, perhaps 7 years or longer, to bolster Omega's claim that they make one of the best watches in the industry that can stand up to daily abuse. But, I guess I can keep dreaming on that. When it comes to presentation, which I know is a little ridiculous, but something we have to talk about, the Omega Seamaster is delivered in Omega's well-known blonde wood presentation box, which is really pretty. Unlike other brands which use cheap plastic or dark laminated woods, the Seamaster Diver is presented in a very impressive and unique tan wood box along with a red leather folio that contains the watch's guarantee, pictogram, and other unique identifying information. While I would never pick one watch over another solely because of the presentation box, it is hard to argue that the Omega Seamaster Diver does not arrive in style and a unique presentation that is memorable. So there you have it. That is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300, one of my daily wears. You might not believe that I wear it daily based on the front, but it's definitely evident from the back that this thing gets used quite a bit. And it's just really, really a comfortable watch to wear. Again, if you're looking for a watch and you've been thinking about the Omega Seamaster, I think you should get it. It's one of those watches that fits within any watch collection. I think no matter what else you have, even if you have Rolexes or Cartiers, I think the Omega Seamaster deserves a spot right next to them. I will say that I have not gone bored of wearing this watch ever. I still look at it every time I put it on. If there's one regret I do have, I think I might have gone with the green dial version of this, which has a dark green dial and dark green ceramic bezel. So someday I might trade up for that, just because it's a little bit different than my other watches. I have Tudors and I have a couple other black face watches, so I want a little diversification in terms of color there, but otherwise, zero regrets with this watch. I wear it all the time. I wear it to the office, I wear it to the beach, I wear it at weddings. If you don't have one of these in your collection, you got to get on it right away. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and follow my channel for more. Thanks.